road, but a catalyst for change in a society is usually persona non grata with those who have been the beneficiaries of the system.
I'm so excited today on AURN, our On the Record segment, to have Maryland Governor, my governor, Wes Moore, joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm so blessed, Ebony. I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful. It's a good day.
It is a good day, and the reason why, and this is like the headline news to me of like the year, which is so important, is that you really made history with the stroke of a pen, making headlines with this groundbreaking executive order that has pardoned over 175,000 Maryland convictions for the state of Maryland. This is a bold move to pardon these marijuana convictions and part of a larger effort that you even said yourself to address historical injustices, this war on drugs, and to promote social equity and justice. Governor Moore, share your motivation for and your actions behind this decision and move.
I mean, this is so long overdue. With this decision, we really worked to right a lot of historical wrongs. And the fact that we have continued to have a society that has treated every sentence like a life sentence, that we've continued to have a society that now that we have a burgeoning and a multi-billion-dollar industry and something that is no longer illegal, but that we still have people that can't find employment. We still have people that could not get to school. We still have people that could not get mortgages because of a misdemeanor cannabis offense, despite the fact that this is now a multi-billion-dollar industry. The lack of justice in this is staggering. And so as Maryland continued to move on building out a recreational cannabis industry, which, I'm really proud of the work our administration has done to build out a cannabis industry that does focus on equity. And where, there's 174 social equity applicants and licensees that now have a chance to be able to go and participate in the cannabis industry. I also knew you cannot have a growing and a growing focus on the benefits of legalization if you're not willing to wrestle with the consequences of criminalization. And that's why, this is the largest mass pardon, the most sweeping mass pardon in our country's history, with a focus on misdemeanor cannabis charges. And that's why I'm so proud of it, because we have shown that not only can we do big things in our state, we can both focus on creating an equitable new industry and at the same time dealing with the consequences of history.
What has been the reaction from organizations that I know have been pushing for this? I've been in the White House briefing room asking questions about this, and we saw President Biden. I mean, from looking at rescheduling to also doing federal pardons as well. What has been the reaction of organizations?
I'm grateful, because if it were not for a lot of these organizations, this could not have happened. One thing that people see about our administration is we move in partnership. And so many of the activists, and also so many of the community groups, so many of members of law enforcement and other members of the public defender's office. Like, we literally had everybody around the table. And so that's one of the reasons that I'm so proud of this conclusion, is because everybody feels a sense of ownership. Everyone feels like they were a part of this process, and now everybody feels like they're a part of history. And so, this is hard stuff. It's complicated, it's challenging, and that did not stop us, because we knew this had to get done, that justice had to be served inside of this moment. And we think this is a big step for us to get there.
You're joining about 9 other states who have also done some form of pardons, but Maryland is the first state that actually included paraphernalia in that number. Can you talk about how you talked about social equity and justice, particularly for African Americans and other Marylanders of color, have been disproportionately criminalized over this, even though they use drugs at the same rate as white folk? We see injustices all around in the system. Talk about how this will really impact Black and Brown communities.
Well, people have said that, well, this kind of pardon, this sweeping pardon that I just signed, it's going to have a disproportionate impact on African Americans and communities of color. And I said yes, because so is the criminalization of cannabis. And we have to be honest. Look at the data. Maryland has 24 different jurisdictions, right? Three of them, Baltimore City, Baltimore County, Prince George's County. Those three jurisdictions of the 24 represent around 50% of the cannabis convictions that we have had. Three jurisdictions of 24. And it just so happens that those three jurisdictions just happen to be either majority African American or majority people of color jurisdictions. So this is not confusing what's happened here. We have seen how cannabis has been used as a cudgel against the Black community, how it's been used as a cudgel against communities of color. And so, yes, will the pardon have a disproportionate impact on communities of color? The answer is yes, because the criminalization of cannabis has had a disproportionate impact on communities of color. But the thing I would also say to people is this, is we know that the way you are going to increase larger economic growth in our state is to have more people participate.
Yes.
It's the reason that we have put such a focus in our time in our first 18 months on things like childcare. We made the largest investments in childcare in the history of the state of Maryland. Why? Because we want more people to participate in the economy, especially women. And if you can put more money into childcare, it will increase the labor participation rates of women. The reason that we did things like making sure you can increase the minimum wage and get rid of the days that people are working, in some cases, multiple jobs and still living at or below a poverty line is because we never want to disincentivize work. That if you're disincentivizing work, people will not return back to a workforce. But if you can give people fair wages for the work that they are doing, they will be incentivized to come back into the workforce. And so the thread that we continue to see in all the things that our administration is pushing for is economic growth. It's work, wages, and wealth. And this becomes a core component to be able to create pathways for work, wages, and wealth when you get rid of the barriers that people have of being partners and being members of a long-standing economic workforce.
Just a couple of more questions about this particular order. Now, I was curious about expungements, given several states have successfully automated the review of the expungement process for marijuana-related convictions. What can we expect those who, want their record also expunged? And then also, does this pardon eliminate any past fees that people may have?
Yes, so Maryland has actually moved forward on the issues of record evaluations, expungements, et cetera. So in many ways, this executive order actually dovetails very, very nicely because the component that for a lot of people that were missing was actually the pardon, right? And so what this now does, this now says for over 175,000 convictions that have taken place, that you all now have a gubernatorial pardon. There's nothing else that you need to do. There's no other check off. There's no other sign off. Literally, you can just go and check your case file, or you can go and just go to any of the public kiosks in any of the courtrooms across the state of Maryland, and you can make sure that you're on there. But for over 175,000 convictions, you now have a gubernatorial pardon. And so for people who want to also go through, there is a process, additional process that people have for things like the long-term expungements, which the state of Maryland and our legislature have already been working on. But for these individuals who just received a gubernatorial pardon today, there's nothing else that they have to do. It's done.
Do you believe so the state is ready to act on this action? Do you think there'll be any type of administrative challenges that you'll have to overcome with this at all?
I think there's always going to be pushback. I also think that what we just executed on today is not just legally sound and legally solid; it's morally grounded. And there was not going to be a question of whether or not we were going to get this done. This team has worked months. This team has worked over a year on making sure that every I was dotted and every T was crossed. And so right now, the thing that we want people to know, this might be their situation. People like Shiloh, who was actually at the bill signing today. someone who's been dealing with this for years, someone who got a job and was fired from his job on his second day because he failed a background check because of a misdemeanor cannabis charge. People
Mm.
like that. I just want them to know that in us, you have an administration that we honor our promises and we see them. And today should be a celebratory day for a lot of Marylanders.
When we talk about the business of cannabis, which you just said earlier is a $1 billion business, I mean, while some people are having fines and have records, other people are making money hand over fist. Even some of the lawmakers who helped put some people in jail, who added to some of these inconsistencies that we see in the criminal justice system, now are in the cannabis industry and making
Mhm.
money. I've also seen some states create programs that help people get into the business. Can we expect that? Or when it comes to the state of Maryland, where should people set their expectations?
Absolutely. That we know that even for people who might have had a misdemeanor cannabis charge, uh, especially post these actions today, we want you as part of the industry. If that's an industry we want you that you want to enter into, we just want to make sure that you have every pathway to be able to achieve your economic dreams, and that it's not just for you; it's for us. We need you to succeed. We need you to win. We need you to be part of this larger growing economy. And frankly, we need you to be part of this larger win that Maryland is having over this next decade. And so, yes, for individuals like that, we want them to be included in this conversation about not just cannabis growth, but also the larger economic growth that our state is seeing right now.
Last question, Juneteenth. We're going to be commemorating Juneteenth this week. What are you going to be doing on Juneteenth? And where do you want people to be focused as we are on the heels of Juneteenth, but we're seeing what's happening in the courts and the attack, especially on Black and Brown communities? Where do you want Americans, especially Black Americans, to be focused?
I want people to focus on why we have the celebration of Juneteenth, about what the history is, about why it was necessary for people to take a day to reflect upon that freedom is hard earned,
Mm.
that freedom is not given, and that change and things do not just happen. Things are actually made to happen. And I want people to remember that this becomes a unique opportunity for us to be able to double down on why it's so important who our leaders are.
Mm.
The
Mm.
people who sit in these seats matter because the things that happen or don't happen when people are sitting in seats, a lot of that has to do with who we're asking to sit in these seats. What accountability measures? And so if you like the things that you are seeing, remember there was a deliberate decision to put certain people in certain seats. And if you don't like the things, it's important that you take a reflection of that as well. And so we have an absolute ability and a responsibility to take this moment seriously. I can tell you that I have been and I will continue to be an active and vocal supporter for President Biden and Vice President Harris. And I will make sure that I want people to understand just how important their leadership has been in the progress that we've continued to see inside of communities. I'm going to be an active and vocal supporter to make sure that Angela Alsobrooks becomes Maryland's next senator, because I think she doesn't just have the character and the integrity, but I think that she has the vision and the values that we need in our state. I want people to take time out to really think about what it is you hope for. What is it you dream for your family, for your future families? And who are the people that can help to deliver that? Who are the people going to keep your family in mind and not their own? And so that's the type of thing that I want people to think through. And I hope we reflect on, spend some time reflecting on for Juneteenth.
Governor Wes Moore, thank you so much for coming on AURN. So we look forward to having you right back on here so we can talk about more issues.
Ebony, anytime. Thank you so much.
Thank you.